It's recording.
Okay, so easiest way to draw brachial plexus, you always want to start with like an M. So we'll make a little M. Make sure when you draw your M, you have to have 3 parallel lines. That's like the key.
Okay.
And when you have 3 parallel lines, then your M is complete. After your M is complete, what you're going to do is you're going to just draw like 2 Y's on top of your M. So here's a Y, and then here's a Y, and just on top of the M. And then you're going to draw another Y, but it's going to be like upside down. So upside down Y. Okay, so this is basically brachial plexus. And then like kind of over here-ish, you're going to do like an X, and then you're going to do half of an X, just like a bunch of letters. This side, the confusing part about this is you have to remember that if I'm drawing the brachial plexus this way, that means this is like my right arm, because this is my spinal cord. So then these are my ventral rami. The spinal nerve like comes out of the intervertebral foramen, and then it just dorsal ramus and ventral ramus. So these are all ventral rami of C5, C6, C7, C8, T1. Okay, so you're going to call this part the roots. It's just like, even though they're rami, that's kind of confusing. Like it's a ventral ramus, but for the brachial plexus, it counts as the root of the brachial plexus. And then after the root is kind of like, I don't remember who it was Sussman or Aravich talked about that tree thing. So then your roots give rise to a trunk. All right, so roots give rise to a trunk, and then what does a trunk do? Your trunk will divide. Your trunk will divide into branches, which are going to be these things. And then there's like an anomaly in the analogy. So you have like cords, but normally the roots form a trunk which divides into branches, and the cords are just like there. I don't know. Okay, so another hard part is just like remembering where everything is. So remember, this is my right side, and when brachial plexus it like comes out of my spinal cord or my spinal column, you know. So since it's vertebral, the plane is this way. So what are the edges of the plane? It's like top and bottom.
Superior.
Yeah, superior, inferior, right? So this is going to be the roots where I'm starting, and right when it comes out, this is going to be the superior trunk. This is the inferior trunk, and there's like no fancy term for middle, so it's just like middle trunk. And over here, the weird thing about the brachial plexus, remember in anatomical position, my arm's like this. But then brachial plexus, it goes down, it goes underneath your clavicle or deep to your clavicle. So when it's going down like that, now my edges are no longer top and bottom, but they're like different sides, right? So anatomically, like what are the sides? Yeah, lateral, medial. So instead of superior, you're going to have lateral. Instead of inferior, you're going to have medial. And then this middle thing, it's actually going to go like kind of this way, which is posterior. So this is going to be key right here. Basically, so for the divisions, this is the hardest part. There are going to be 3 anterior divisions and 3 posterior divisions. The easiest way to remember it is you just have to remember like one thing. That one thing is that whatever is in the middle is going to be posterior. Whatever's in the middle is posterior. So pretend like, I don't know, it's like a little person, and then I'm walking down this way because I start over here and then the brachial plexus ends over here. So if I'm walking this way, right, I'm not in the middle, so this is not posterior. Then I'm walking, and then, I decide to go this way along the route. I go on this path. So now I'm going towards the middle. So if I'm going towards the middle, then what do I become? I become posterior. Yeah, same thing if I'm walking over here, going down this branch, walking, 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 and then I come down here. I went towards the middle, so that makes this part of the X also posterior. So this is posterior, this is posterior, and the middle itself is also posterior. So that means I have 3 posterior divisions. Anterior is just anything that's not in the middle, so this is not in the middle. That means this must be anterior. Not in the middle, that means it's anterior. And then if I'm starting walking over here, I'm walking this way, but then now I'm going up. That means I went away from the middle, which means that this division must be
Anterior.
Anterior, yes. So 1, 2, 3 anteriors, 1, 2, 3 posteriors. Okay, so that's it for like drawing the brachial plexus. The harder part is the nerve. So the first nerve is just like the long one. It goes through 3 different roots. But remember, these are ventral rami. So C5, C6, C7. This is the long thoracic nerve. It's long, so long thoracic nerve. What does this innervate?
The long thoracic nerve innervates the serratus anterior.
Correct, serratus anterior. The mnemonic for this is 5, because since it comes from 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, raise your arms to heaven. Because if I'm abducting my arms, like to begin abduction, this is supraspinatus doing this, right? To continue abduction, up to here, this is deltoid doing this. But then if my scapula is like stuck in place, my arm can't go any higher than this. So what the serratus anterior does is it allows my scapula to move so I can go like this. So 5, 6, 7, raise your arms to heaven. It's corny, but I don't know, it works. So that's that one. And then in order to remember which or how many nerves you have, basically we have these little boxes on top. There's a branches box, a chords box, divisions box, trunks, root boxes. Every single box is going to have one like hair coming out of it, which is a nerve. So there's a nerve here, there's a nerve here, like right at the junction. There's a nerve here, and there's a nerve here. So this one is dorsal scapular nerve. No fancy way to remember that, sorry. What does a dorsal scapular nerve innervate? We dissected it like last week. Rhomboid, so this is going to be the rhomboid, rhomboid minor, rhomboid major, and the vater scapula. Over here, it's kind of like right at the junction. This is the nerve to the subclavius. I'm going to write it up here. Nerve to subclavius. It's like I don't know, it's like a stupid muscle. It's just like, it keeps your sternoclavicular joint in place. That's like all I know that it does. I don't know. So that's your nerve to subclavius. Over here is going to be your suprascapular nerve. So I guess maybe like one thing that could help you remember, like at least these first 3, they're all kind of like scapular area stuff. This is the dorsal scapular nerve. This is the suprascapular nerve. Subclavius is like, it's not at your scapula, but it's like the anterior part. What does suprascapular nerve innervate?
Supraspinatus.
Supraspinatus. And what does it also innervate? What's the thing that's right by the supraspinatus? It sounds just like it.
The infraspinatus.
Infraspinatus. So suprascapular, supraspinatus, and infraspinatus. Over here, remember we're on our lateral cord, right? This is our medial cord. So since it's on our lateral cord, everything on our lateral cord is going to start with the word lateral. It's just like easy. So lateral pectoral nerve. What does that innervate?
The pec major.
Pec major and like pec minor too, I guess. So lateral cord, lateral pectoral nerve. It's like common sense, I guess. And like the, I don't know what to call it. It's kind of like a shortcut or tip, just like general rule in anatomy. If there's ever a descriptive word, so lateral, it's not just called like pectoral nerve, right? It's called lateral pectoral nerve. So if there's ever a descriptive word, if there's a lateral pectoral nerve, what must there also be?
A medial.
A medial pectoral nerve. And where do you think that will be?
On the medial branch.
On the medial cord, yes. So if there's a lateral pectoral nerve, there must be a medial pectoral nerve. And then remember, everything on the lateral cord starts with the word lateral. Everything on the medial cord is going to start with the word medial. And the other like memory key is that you play piano, right?
Used to.
Before, yeah, a long time ago. So you know when you play a chord, it's like you play 3 fingers. That's like the stereotypical chord. So the chords each are going to have 3 nerves. You play a chord, it has 3 notes. Play a chord over here, it has 3 nerves, except this guy, the lateral one. That's the only one on the top. But for these two, 3 nerves, just like a chord. 3 nerves, just like a chord. Remember over here, everything begins with the word medial. So for these two guys, this is the medial. And then these two are going to be like a pair. They just go together. They're basically like the same names, kind of stupid. It's called the brachial cutaneous nerve. And just based off of the name of this, what do you think it does? What does brachial mean?
It innervates your brachium.
Well, brachial is like your arm area. Cutaneous is
your skin.
Skin. Yeah, okay, so medial brachial cutaneous nerve. And this is just the medial antebrachial. You just add this anti in here. Oh, brachial cutaneous nerve. Okay, so that's your 3 in the middle, and then we have 3 for the posterior cord too. For the posterior one, you just have to memorize like one nerve. That's going to be like your anchor nerve. It is remember we have 3 things, 3 nerves over here. So this one is going to be called, since it's the middle nerve, it's going to be for a back that's like kind of in the middle of my body, which is like the latissimus dorsi. It's kind of in the middle of my body. And what innervates the latissimus dorsi?
The thoracodorsal.
Yes, so thoracodorsal nerve. The reason this is important is that another name for the thoracodorsal nerve is middle subscapular nerve. And remember our general tip, so if there's a middle subscapular nerve, what must there also be?
Superior and inferior.
Yeah, so superior, inferior. But in this case, there's going to be upper and lower. So there's a middle subscapular nerve, or in other words, thoracodorsal. And because there's a middle one, there must also be an upper and a lower subscapular nerve. And I can't spell. So upper subscapular nerve, I'm just going to write lower. So upper, middle, lower subscapular nerve. It's just like, if you remember the thoracodorsal, then these will kind of fall into place. Just like if you remember the lateral pectoral, the medial will kind of fall into place. So just kind of have like, instead of memorizing this whole like garbage thing, just like have a couple of anchor nerves that'll give you hints as to everything else. So I'd say memorize lateral pectoral, because in the lateral cord. Then you know if there's a lateral one, there must be a medial one. And everything starts with the word medial. So medial pectoral, medial brachial cutaneous, medial antebrachial cutaneous. And your other anchor nerve is thoracodorsal, which is really the middle subscapular nerve. But if there's a middle, there must also be upper and lower. So upper and lower subscapular nerve. Okay, so for the ends, these guys, these are like the actual nerves. So the whole point of a plexus is to like start with these roots, because over here this root is only C5, right? This root is only C6. This root is only C7. But then once I get to the trunks, so this trunk is now a mixture of C5 and C6. Right? This trunk is now a mixture, this is just C7, but this trunk is now a mixture of C8 and T1. So by the time you get over here, these nerves, they're no longer just like pure C5, C whatever. It's like these nerves are all going to be mixtures of this entire thing. So for example, the first one we're going to start with, remember when we first drew our brachial plexus, we had our M. For M, we're going to look at the letter M, and then also the middle of the M is going to be our key. So this nerve right in the middle of the M is going to be called the median nerve. Middle of the M, M for median. Median also means like middle. I think it does. I might have made that up. But even if it doesn't, this median nerve over here, this top one, is going to be the Musculocutaneous nerve, the one way to remember that is like, since it's on the top, it's kind of like the top nerve, the top dog. It's like the big guy on top, right? And I say that because it actually has the word muscle in it, musculocutaneous nerve. So it's like it's for the big muscle. And you know, like in, I don't know, like in high school or like in the movies and stuff, the stereotype muscle is like the bicep, right? That's the big stereotypical muscle. So the bicep is innervated by musculocutaneous nerve. Over here you have axillary, which innervates what?
Your deltoid.
Yes. And then in between axillary and medial, you have radial. I have no mnemonics for this. I think Sussman's was like, my aunt's really my uncle or something. And the bottom you have ulnar nerve. Your ulnar nerve is actually your funny bone. You don't have a funny bone. It's like whenever you get that tingly thing, it's because your ulnar nerve goes under the medial epicondyle, and then it like twitches or something. I don't know. The ulnar nerve. So the takeaway or like the concept for this is that, remember, these are no longer pure rami. These are mixtures of all the rami. So for example, the musculocutaneous nerve, if you like open it up, you won't be able to distinguish, like, I don't know, I can't tell whether it's from 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. They're all blended together because that's what a plexus does. It takes the pure rami, and then it blends them together, and then it gives you these nerves. So the musculocutaneous nerve, for example, this is actually made up of everything from C5, C6, C7, C8, all the way to T1. The axillary nerve, it's made up of C5 to C6. So it's just, I'm not sure if we have to know these though for class. Maybe. Anything else? Did I miss anything?
No, I think one thing to note though that we did learn in lecture is that the medial brachial cutaneous nerve and the medial antebrachial cutaneous nerve, it actually stems from the medial cord from a common trunk. Yes. But other than that, I don't really see anything.
Oh, so it'd be like this. Or, oops.
Yeah, it'd be like one thing. Yeah, exactly. It'd be just like that. Yeah.
Okay, well, I didn't know that. Maybe that's why they have the same name.
But otherwise, I think that's good.
Cool. Awesome. You're a brachial plexus master now.
Nice!